After Bottas' poor start to the season, many are tipping Williams driver George Russell to replace the Finn for 2022. Now, I'm not going to beat that story to death today. I mean, its expiry date was probably last month looking at the views in my video on it from last week. But one big topic that nobody's really mentioning is who could replace Russell. Now, the Williams CEO Josh Capito has come out and said, "We have to have a backup plan, because we see the likeliness that Mercedes will give him an offer." However, looking around at the options, it's hard to see what this backup plan could entail, as there's not really an obvious candidate or proper pay driver available. So I thought I could run you through all the different options, then you could make up your mind to who Williams could pick for next season. Let me know in the comment section below. If you think you'll enjoy it, I'd greatly appreciate if you could subscribe. The support recently has been awesome and I'm very thankful. So let's just kick things off with Latifi. I'd imagine he'll be at Williams next season, as it's believed he signed a contract that will run until the end of 2022. It will be interesting to see how Latifi will perform in comparison to someone else besides George, because while he's been thrashed in qualifying, his race pace doesn't appear that far away from Russell. Plus, he brings in a massive amount of funding to the team, so the new owners don't have to frantically look for sponsors. Therefore, I think we'll assume he's staying on and focus on the other seat. Now, when a driver gets promoted to a top seat, sometimes a simple driver swap just happens. For example, when Leclerc went to Ferrari, Raikkonen took his old seat at Sauber. Now, of course, Bottas has experience of being at Williams. He's only ever raced at them and Mercedes in his 9-year career so far. But would he humiliatingly want to go from the best team on the grid to almost the worst? I guess it depends on how much he loves the sport and wants to continue. He looks depressed and fed up at the moment after his poor start to the year, but at the same time he still looks driven and wanting to keep racing with Mercedes, beating Hamilton in fact at the most recent qualifying at the time of recording. I'm sure Williams would love to have the expertise of a Mercedes driver, but I'm not sure they'd love the paycheck of an F1 race winner with nearly a decade of experience under his belt though. One other thing to mention is that 2022 is when the new F1 regulations come into effect, which could shake up the grid. When Massa left from Ferrari to Williams for 2014, it looked like a stupid move. But the Grove-based outfit went from 9th in the Constructors to 2013 to challenging for wins when the last regulation change came in. Could Valtteri perhaps try his luck with a Williams gamble if he's kicked out from the Silver Arrows? Perhaps Williams would like to bring in a cheaper alternative with F1 experience. Hulkenberg started his career with the 9-time Constructor winners in 2010, scoring a surprise pole position at the penultimate round of that season. Despite this being his second straight season without a seat, he's been working and training hard during that time, with Aston Martin and Mercedes giving the German a reserve F1 role, which will keep his skills sharp. Let's not forget the time when he was called on suddenly multiple times, managing the pressure superbly to put in some incredible drives. Could Kvyat be in with a shout? It seems like the Russian's seen it all, from an early promotion to scoring podiums to sudden demotions and being kicked out of F1. When Toro Rosso found themselves with an empty seat in 2019, they were happy to reinstate the then Ferrari test driver to their team, proving he's been able to deliver despite having a year out of the sport. And what about last year's Haas drivers? After finishing second on his debut, Magnussen never really got a proper chance to show what he's made of, and I wonder if Grosjean would be tempted to do another season in the sport after desperately wanting to compete in what will probably have turned out to be his final 2 races. And let's not forget Alex Albon. Since you've watched my recent video on him, you'll know he's played a crucial role in getting Red Bull into the title fight, and he would love to have another chance in F1. We can reflect on past drivers all we want, but surely it would be an insult to the Williams Academy to simply ignore their presence. After all, the last and only time a replacement was needed for Russell, Williams reserve driver Aitken was picked over a previous F1 driver. Maybe the team will be looking for some fresh and young talent to replace the Mercedes protege, and the Academy could be the first place Williams will look. There are currently 4 drivers in this development programme: Aitken, Chadwick, Nissany and Ticktum. It's basically impossible Chadwick will be driving in F1 next season because she's not racing in Formula 2 and so is unlikely to have enough super points. Williams have let Nissany have multiple outings in free practice this season, and the Israeli would bring a lot of backing to the team. But he's had a poor start to the F2 season, and again, he's unlikely to reach the sufficient amount of super license points this year to get an F1 drive. Dan Ticktum, on the other hand, is a massive possibility for 2022. He's shown pace from the very start of his Formula 2 journey last year, and he currently lies 5th, 18 points off the championship leader, despite a poor last round in Baku. But Briton has historically found himself in controversy, but if he keeps his head down, this will be as good of a chance as ever to get himself into motorsport's top tier. The final driver I haven't mentioned is already race starter Aitken. He knows the team very well, having done a lot of testing with them, and he impressed in his one-off appearance when he replaced Russell. But in his 3 years of F2 so far, he's never really fought for the title, although you could argue that was because of his car and some bad luck. But regardless, many people believe Aitken's chance has come and already gone. But he's definitely up there with the contenders though. Now you're probably thinking, right, that's surely all the options. But I'd like to chuck a couple or so more names into the ring. As of recording, the top 2 drivers in the F2 standings are Zhou and Piastri. The only problem is that both these are Renault, or as they're known now, Alpine, academy drivers. Now Ocon has just recently signed a contract to stay with the team until 2024, and Alonso seems pretty happy at Alpine at the moment. I can imagine him wanting to stay for 2022. So Alpine have a bit of a problem at the moment. Unlike Mercedes, Ferrari and Red Bull, they don't have a feeder team, so perhaps they could end up sending some money Williams' way. Some say that Championship leader Zhou hasn't done enough to warrant an F1 seat, with this being his 3rd year in F2. But he was arguably the unluckiest driver in motorsport's 2nd tier last season, and he brings a lot of backing from China. In addition, Piastri is a highly rated upcoming talent, and many see him being in F1 for a long time in the future. And Ferrari have a similar problem too. 3rd place in the standings after 9 rounds is Schwartzman, but Ilott is already at the head of the queue of Ferrari Academy drivers looking for a place in F1. After Ferrari got outbid by the Mazepin family for the 2nd Haas seat, they may turn their attention to Williams this time around. And while this may seem stupid and a bit random, could 2019 F2 champion De Vries find a way into the seat? After a poor last round of Formula E, he found himself no longer leading the championship, but the Dutchman has impressed in the series so far, and Mercedes have picked him up and are increasingly giving him opportunities, such as the Young Drivers Test in Abu Dhabi last season. So a hell of a lot of options then. It feels this topic's barely been talked about, so I thought it'd be an interesting video to make, and I assume if you made it so far, you found the video informative, so if you could drop a subscribe and a like on the video, I'd be very appreciative. There are a couple of videos on screen now if you're interested, but thanks for watching, and goodbye.